Hello, welcome to another Azure Centric Podcast on our show on the Azure Weekly News. I hope that you guys are okay with all the things that are happening on the east side of North America. You experience a little bit what we Canadians have as granted. That is a little bit of snow and cold, but I hope that everyone is okay. My good friends down in Texas. I hope that you can stay safe and stay warm in this case. And I'm really hoping that everyone is fine. First of all, I want to thank you that if you are the first time that you listen to the podcast, welcome. If you are already a whole timer, thank you as well. Don't forget to subscribe the channel to help us out. We've been tremendous happy with the effort that everyone is doing regarding that. The feedback is so great that we this week decided to not shooting this on the night and shooting back on the day again because it was very productive and at least for us regarding the flow of everything. Although in Azure this weekend or this week, especially I think it was on Wednesday, it's oh my god, they decided to unleash the hell in this case regarding updates. So it's a very busy week. We had to cut down a lot of all of those good things. So once again, go visit the blog, go visit the Azure updates to see everything that we miss. We had about 30, right? And we had
Oh, there was something like that. Yeah, we cut a good 10 or something like that out of
absolutely.
the articles that we'll chat about today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of them were more on the dev side, and me and Andrew, we are not the dev folks. We have some experience on that, but we are not the dev guys. So we try to keep. And again, the idea of this podcast is to bring our experiences from the field regarding those updates and what that can be if beneficial for you that you are listening regarding the updates and all our experience and how we see those updates regarding our experience as well. The idea over here is to record this conversation. We have a lot of fun if this is the first time you're seeing, and let's keep moving. So, Andrew, once again we are recording this conversation during the day, so I have no expectations than the greatest thing.
Yes, silly things will probably be said. That's one thing we can be sure of.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a really busy week for Azure News. There was a few things that I've actually been waiting for one of my clients,
Yeah.
now coming into preview. So I'm excited to talk about that with you
Yeah.
today. And like you said, there was actually quite a few kind of DevOps and on the blogs this week. So I just want to kind of maybe reiterate, really important, if you're looking for information around dev and DevOps, please go visit the Azure blog and the Azure Updates blog.
Absolutely.
That's what
Absolutely.
we use as our source for this podcast in this case. And we definitely encourage everybody watching and listening, go check it out, read along as we chat. Call us on our baloney and put some comments in the chat and let us know if we get something wrong. We want to know about it. If we get something right and it helps you out, send us something too. Let us know that we actually saved you some time or helped one of your clients. We'd love
Yeah.
to hear that. I love hearing about those positive stories because like I always say, if we can help just one person, then all of this is worth it. And
Absolutely.
it's just a lot of fun. But yes, so I suppose prattle on and on here today. So as I
That's
hold
okay.
my nice hot coffee here, and I was thinking about what you said, and one of my clients right now, they have a lot of offices in the southern U.S. and on the eastern seaboard across North America, and they're really hurting a lot of people. So if you're not hurting, I know Red Cross in the U.S. has a fund going. You can contribute to that, and they can help all of the people that are, can't stay in their home because maybe there's flooding. They're not, a lot of the houses aren't insulated in the southern U.S. They have an air conditioner to help with the heat, but many people don't have a furnace or anything to create heat.
And it's not only that, a lot of things that we saw, not to spend too much time on that, was like they don't are prepared. Like we are not prepared when we have like above 30 centigrades, 30 Celsius, right? We are not. Our houses are not prepared.
And turn into a useless puddle on the couch. I can't do anything over 30.
Completely, because our houses are not prepared for that. In this case, a lot of those news. It's not only in Texas. Our good friends in north of Europe, like in England, and even in although in Netherlands it's common to have snow, but not that amount of snow. Our friends in
not as much as they got.
Exactly. Our friends in the North Pacific, in this case Seattle, have an insane amount of snow as well. I saw some video this morning, some guy doing ski on the Pike Market. That was funny one. To see it.
I haven't seen that. I'm going to go and look for that.
Look for that because it's incredible. The guy just going on the central of in this case, I think it's downtown Seattle, at least for me, it's downtown Seattle, where is the Pike Market is. And the guy was coming down the hill, all right, on a ski, just going there and using and be happy and enjoying and says, yeah, it's not very common. So apparently our love of Canada is going down of the south, saying, hey,
it is.
Hey, neighbors.
The love stops at the border, I think, though. They don't like the snow quite as much in the south.
Yes, I have to say.
So, but I mean, as much as we joke, and I know I don't want to dwell on it in this case with our podcast, but I think it's important. We have to help each other. We need to be kind. These are difficult times for everybody for so many reasons. So with this, it's easy. If you can help out with somebody, then certainly help out.
Absolutely.
But it's a wacky weather thing, and I really hope I heard on the radio it was going to pass fairly quickly in the next few days. It was going to warm up again and kind of be more normal for them. So
just anger, anger, and be safe. That's the only thing we ask. So let's start.
Exactly.
Let's start. Standard load balancer and IP address metadata now available through Azure Instance Metadata Service. Oh my God. I was able to say this without even... I'm proud of myself. I'm starting on the right foot.
You did really well on the first one. It was kind of a tongue twister, right?
Absolutely. So what does that mean after this?
So this is a good thing now, right? Because what's this going to do for us really, right? So as you know, there is the basic and the standard. When we think about load balancing, right? And now saying on the standard load balancer, which is the more advanced one, you have some more options and features available, that you can have a public or private IP address of the VM instance, for example, for your backend, right? So your front end IP address of the Azure standard load balancer it will sit in front, and then you can, for if some reason you have a public IP on the VM, before it had to be a private IP address on the inside for the backend pool, right?
Yeah.
Now you can also have a public IP in your backend pool. Certainly, there's a little bit more to it. Is there anything that you wanted to kind of call out on this one?
I just want to mention one thing that probably it's new. That is this Azure, not new to us, but new to you that you will listen. That is Azure Instance Metadata Service. This service, okay, just to go back a little bit, is the service that is responsible for providing information about the currently running virtual machine instances. Okay, so basically what it does is you can use it. You can use the IMDS service to manage and configure your virtual machines. So, for example, you have information like SKU, storage, network configuration, upcoming maintenance events, so on and so forth, right? In this particular case, okay, IMDS is nothing more than a REST API that is available and is well known. Although it's a non-routable IP, so it's one of those classes like 169, 240, 254 kind of IP, so the a PIP IP, the PIP IP, the non-routable, that they can only access within the VM. In this case, the communication between the VM and IMDS never leaves the host, and that's the reason, okay? So if you have HTTP clients that they are connecting, you can bypassing the proxy of those VMs when you're querying those by going to that public IP, or not, sorry, to that PIPA IP, okay? On the same way that you're doing for the other IPs, for example. And this is the part that is important to mention over here, because now you can access that IP address that Andrew mentioned through the IMDS. Okay, just to give a little bit more context to what we're talking about, because I know that this is awesome for us that we know, but I was reading into this and I say, okay, probably should clarify what IMDS does. So now it's a little bit more clear what this update is going to affect in everyone. Like you mentioned, you are able to do this, the IPs and all of that, but the way that this works is this is going through this service that is nothing more than a REST API, okay? And that's the part that we gain information from.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to kind of note one of those, little differences, but it's a key one. So when you're working in the world of load balancers and even application gateways, which is really just a layer 7 load balancer, right? So what we have is the basic and the standard SKU. And when you start off with the basic, you're really, I think of it as the bite size, right? So basic is like the bite size SKU. You're starting off with the first byte, you're getting to use the features, seeing what works. When you're ready, you move to the standard SKU for those kinds of things. Or if you have a feature such as IMDS targeting that you're going to be using, you will then use the standard SKU. But you can go up without full reprovisioning of everything, right? But it's very hard to come down. So you have to remove that service and then fully reprovision and reprogram everything. So you have to do all that configuration, add your backend pool, your front-end IP, all the things. So you need to do all of the things with those. If you're coming down a SKU, and of course, people will come down a SKU when they aren't using features and they realize that they can right-size it and save a little bit of money by coming down in the feature set. So just kind of the difference there. It doesn't always make sense, and a bit newer to Azure. When we talk about basic versus standard, there's also premium as a tier that they talk about for different things too. So it's kind of the level 1, 2, and 3 of Azure for SKU and feature availability, right? So
followed by
I just wanted to lay the groundwork because today, oddly, we have something from every tier that we'll talk about.
And that's I'm starting to see this now that we are doing all of this weekly podcast. I'm starting to see like a kind of most a theme. I think I'm going to change the name of, or at least the episodes, the setting of numbers to more of a theme, because last week was about Azure government in this case. This one is Azure more like Azure networking that we're going to talk, and we have a lot of things coming new. That is mainly the topic, like you mentioned. It's mainly Azure networking that is being released this week. And that's at least for this on this podcast, all right? That we go.
It's very interesting to watch, right? So, I've been learning right alongside you with these things, and it's really interesting because it's the cadence of updates from Microsoft, and they seem to have these kind of push in a certain pattern.
Yeah.
I don't want Microsoft to chase us down if we blow their cover on the pattern, so maybe we shouldn't rename the podcast quite yet.
Not rename the podcast, rename the title of that episode that we are talking about. It's something.
I like
the idea.
I like the idea. Put it in the title. Yeah.
So
because,
don't forget one thing. If you like that idea, you like the idea, or if you have a better idea, just not subscribe, but leave a comment below. Exactly. I had to press. I only pressed once this button, so twice it's good. I think it's a good average.
I don't know what it is about that little logo. It bounces on the screen, and I see it in that the little square.
Yeah.
And I'm compelled to bounce along with it. I can't help it. Sorry, it's the daylight. I'm going to blame the daylight.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Next one is Azure role-based access control to our friend RBAC for Azure Key Vault. Data plane authorization. It's now in GA. That's one of the excitements about this because I was doing a workshop this week about the foundations and about what I call the operational governance and rollbacks and role-based access control and all of that. And then I realized that now the Azure Key Vault is basically with that on the data plane, right? So achieve a unified management and access control across Azure resources is absolutely a must. It's both thumbs up. Thank you, Microsoft, for making this as a GA.
Absolutely, yeah. So RBAC is such a huge thing. And, over many years, we see all of our clients in different organizations and even, other people we work with, their clients. Everybody really struggles with roles.
Yeah.
It's a very complex thing. And typically, it's hard to take a existing environment that has, just kind of mishmash, I want to call it, right? So it is. Everybody just has kind of done everything through security groups, and it's from an organizational standpoint, it is messy and it's complicated, and you always require someone with in-house knowledge to do provisioning and deprovisioning and change security rights and roles for people. And God help you if you try to advance in that company and that poor person changes. Now everybody's going to start to have troubles with that because it's all very internal. So RBAC is the answer for that, right? Because it now becomes roles. So you can have tiered administrators, you can have different levels. Everything becomes very highly organized and portable.
Yeah.
And when it's like that, it's easy for us to come reach back, like you were talking, with good governance policies and actually validate.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone is doing what they're supposed to. They're following the rules. But wait, look at this magic security group out here. What are these admins doing over here with their own security group? It should be in the rules. So you can fix those things and stop that weird security group sprawl from happening.
Absolutely.
And this is a really good example. I know I get excited about these weird things. I apologize. But I think this one is really great because with the Key Vault, now you're talking about keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Really,
Yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
It has the keys. So whether you're doing the dev side of this and you're calling the keys, getting authorizations, but if you're an admin, please, you should be using Key Vault for your stored credentials in your PowerShell scripts and things like that. You should be calling to Key Vault, getting the authorizations and doing all of the good things, all those best practices. This is going to make it a lot easier.
Absolutely.
So I'm done.
And it's not only that. Now that you mentioned, it's good to going on implementation on the best practice for either individual keys, secrets, or certificates, right? So, for the love of God, okay, and this is I'm not on my knees because then I will off camera, and off mic, but the recommendation is to use the Vault per application per environment. So if you have, for example, dev, pre-prod or tests and production, use one Vault per application per environment, because then you are secure, because then you can assign those rollbacks like Andrew mentioned, right, on those Vaults per environment per application. Although
Exactly, it becomes
a lot easier to
because you can
manage.
use
Exactly.
yeah.
And those applications should not have the same password or the same secrets or the same keys, right?
No,
Should be
absolutely
totally
not.
different.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be reusing credentials
Exactly.
for different systems.
Yeah.
Any system, whether it be software, something we're writing internally, even a testing stage internally when we're trying to figure out if our new code does actually work. Use a different credential, because if one becomes compromised, then everything is compromised.
Exactly.
And we have actually seen that happen at a couple of spots over the years where where a compromise does happen, and because there were shared credentials in use across that organization, it led to a full compromise.
Absolutely.
And that there's different levels, there's different things that can mean, and we're being very specifically vague here.
No, completely. And even if you use individual keys and secrets or even certificates on a multi-layer application, for example, separate the access on those to control between the layers. Even if you have a web layer and a database layer, for example, separate that access, separate those ones. Even sharing, like you're saying, individual secrets between multi applications, try to separate those controls. And again, I think we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, or if it's not the last episode, that one of the things that they enable on the Azure Key Vault is the possibility of calling just one time, and you can even regenerate those keys automatically, and you are always calling the last one.
That's right. I think that was last week. We
actually
covered that, where there was auto generation of keys, and that will increase security, so huge, and it's automated, right?
Yeah.
So, once you have it set up, now you're cooking with gas. You can just keep on going.
Absolutely.
So, I want to drive into this next one because I got excited about it when I saw it.
Please.
Sorry. So, Azure Firewall Premium now in preview. So, this is
public preview, I have to say. Sorry. Public preview.
Public preview. Yep. So we're actually referencing two different articles on our screens. I have the one from Azure Blog, and you are using Azure Updates blog. So yours gives you the separation of public and private preview. Mine just says preview.
Okay.
So non-standard article publishing. Microsoft. Just FYI.
If you're looking at this,
really hard on
if you're looking at this is some kind of thing that you can update on. And you are welcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can update on the updates, right? We're getting nested here.
It's what's called nested virtualization.
Now we're talking about nested logic.
Oh my God.
This is going to go downhill really quickly.
Exactly. Let's stop that way.
So, Azure Firewall Premium, preview aside, do not deploy in prod. This will be one of those ones I'm like 99% sure is going to require a redeploy, because they're going to need to work out some things and then redeploy things. So just a little quick FYI on our usual speech about, please, for the love of Pete, do not deploy preview anythings in your prod environments. Totally not best practice. Best practice is GA only in prod. Test it, use it in your non-prod environments all you want. we really encourage you, test it out, try it out, give feedback. And usually in these longer articles with preview things, they usually do have an email, a form, or a link of some flavor that you can use to make providing your feedback super easy. Because the product teams actually do. And, I was surprised many years ago to learn this, but a company as large as Microsoft, they do a very good job of breaking things down into product teams. And you can actually provide usable feedback that they will action. No matter how small of a company or person you are, a one-off organization, it doesn't matter. You can provide your feedback and they read it and listen. So, long story short, Azure Firewall Premium, really, really cool. So this is going to allow some cool things. So in the context of using Azure Firewall Premium SKU with vWAN and Secure Hub, which the deployment of Azure Firewall makes a vHub a then Secure Hub. Then now you can use Azure Firewall Premium SKU to forward to another NVA of another flavor. So if you want to use like FortiGate or something like that, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just not Azure Firewall. So if you have a requirement within your organization to use a specific kind of NVA appliance for your firewalls, then now you're going to have the ability to do that through Secure Hub. But it will only be in your testing environment today because it is for preview right now. So there's a ton of other features that come with this, but that is the one that I have been just jumping up and down in my chair about for about a half an hour here. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
You're very welcome. It's not only that, and you mentioned there is a lot of good things about this Azure Firewall Premium. The part that I like is the IDPS, the intrusion detection and prevention system. So
yes,
provides in this case the way that you can rapid detection of attacks, and that Well, the part that I like this is going to a path that we are very passionate about it. That is the Azure, what now it's rebranded as Azure Defender ATP, right? That is attaching directly to this. So now we're starting to see that the cybersecurity division of Microsoft now is going on a path that it will make our infrastructure way more resilient against these attacks, right? And way more prepared for that.
Exactly. So one of the challenges that I've had with the standard SKU for Azure Firewall has been that it's a great firewall, but it's missing a lot of the next generation firewall features.
Absolutely.
So everybody talks about next gen firewalls and yada, yada, yada. But what does it mean? Well, it's the layer 7 filtering and the TLS inspections and a lot of those different advanced features that makes it next gen, right? So I talked about being able to just forward traffic and route it through a third-party NVA, network virtual appliance. And that's a really critical thing because a lot of companies that you and I work with, like government entities, power companies, larger organizations, financial institutions,
healthcare,
they have strict rules. And they have very big security departments that, how can I say this politically correct? They are freaking on top of everything. Like if you think that you're going to try this thing in the environment, but you don't have all of the changes approved, those guys know about it within seconds and they phone you. So from experience a few years ago when I skirted a change process, and I think you were with me on that project actually, and they did phone me and ask me why I was deploying it because it was still deploying in Azure. Well, anyways, long story short, I learned a lesson about wait for the actual approval, not just the change committee that says, yes, we're going to approve it. You have to wait for the signature on the paper.
Exactly.
Long story short, I'm much better now. But all of these next-gen features are huge. They're critical for modern security. And in my personal view, I really think this is going to take Azure Firewall to the next level. So we're going to start to see companies, it's going to take some time, maybe 6 months to a year, but they'll start to adopt Azure Firewall and Azure Native Service as a compatible and top tier product when it comes to firewalling and security. So that's absolutely huge for us because it means, less slowdowns, bottlenecks, less complexities, all those things. I'm not getting a sales commission here. I'm just excited about it.
I just have to say one thing is I did participate on this on the MVP program. And if you are excited now, just wait a little bit longer and then we will see what's coming. It's the only
Someday,
thing I
you
will
never know. Someday.
It's the only thing I will have to say because I did participate on this. I knew that the war is going to be released because we are informed this before, as you can imagine. But under the NDA, we cannot disclose this, even with friends.
Of course.
So if the MVP's awards are listened to our podcast, I respect the NDA, so I have no problem with that. But it's really exciting moments for in my opinion, it was long due.
It is, yeah. It's Azure Firewall has been a premium product for a long time. It operates so well.
It was at the
but it was
beginning,
just
I have to
missing
say.
these key features.
I have to say that the beginning was a very good product. Although all of the other players with their appliances and all of that, they did a pretty amazing job. And this is where this service that is an Azure service, right? A native Azure service, right? It was in somehow left behind because some of the people and some of the organizations already have this implemented. So they have their Cisco, the Palo Altos, the FortiGates, the Fortinet, all of that been deploying, and they are extending to the cloud. What makes sense because then they have their teams with already knowledge, and this is a totally new tool. Although if you are an organization that you are starting new, okay, and I think that this Azure Firewall is where is their place is this, okay, or if you want, because the best practice says that you should have multiple vendors of firewall, okay, because of all of the things that they are doing. What this does that probably the other ones they are not doing is we are starting to see the attachments of the firewall with the Defender ATP that is for me a top elite service that Microsoft have with the be able to do it zero
we're
trust.
Both really passionate about
Oh my God.
Defender, that's for sure. There's so much to it. It's a very deep product, right?
It's a very deep product that you can do it on the security side. Marvelous with that. I highly recommend doing that. But we already passed the time of this. We have way more things to talk about it. I'm sorry to interrupt.
There's a couple quick ones, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can make up some time on here. It's okay, everybody. Don't get
panic.
too excited.
Don't panic. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I think let's see here. What's up next here? Automatic Azure VM extension upgrade. Yep.
Yeah, capabilities now in public preview. So another preview. We have extension. In this case, on your VMs, on our Azure VMs, and it's like it's really to see the automatic extensions on the VMs and scale sets that you can have. So when you apply, in this case on the VM scale set, no more than 20% of the VMs will be upgraded in a single batch. So a lot of those things, it's regarding this. Upgrades will apply on the availability first deployment model. So if there is availability on that, they will be upgraded on that and is automatically doing that. So it's good to know that all of these extensions for the Azure VMs is going to be automatically when they are publishing this. So like for example, IOPS, Like for example, the parts that you are doing, if they are updating those, you will see those automatically updating on the on the first available deployment. Okay, that's, I think it's about it. We If we're going too deep on this, we're probably going to spend too much time on this, defining all of that, and I think it's a good update. Again, it's in public preview. Okay, so
Exactly.
means that even if you apply or even if you have those extensions, you will see as a public as a preview. Okay, you probably need to redeploy those extensions. Okay, and they are not automatically when they become GA. That's the only caption that I want to make regarding this update, right?
Yeah, it is a manual redeploy when something moves from preview to GA when it's required. It's not always required, but again, one of the things I think I talked about a few weeks ago was on preview items. Organizations really should understand, administrators in Azure should understand that a preview product has no SLA. None.
Exactly.
So if it goes
It's
down
best
or
effort.
it doesn't do the thing that it was supposed to do, nobody cares because it's in preview. You're supposed to be testing it, not
It's not
using it
nobody cares. Okay, it's not nobody cares. You still,
Well, no.
in some cases you have
what I mean.
support, but it's the best.
There's no SLA.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you talk to support, they're going to say, well, it's in a prod environment and you have a product that you're using from preview, so we can't really help you a whole lot with that.
Yeah.
What you can do, however, is provide your feedback. It doesn't do the thing it was supposed to do.
So in this case means that we cannot open a crit seat A or something like that is on a best effort. So Microsoft will help you, but there is no SLA. If they take weeks or months to solve that, or even if they message saying it's in preview, we will address this when it becomes GA, be prepared for that. That's the part that we want to say. It's not like no one cares. It's
well, no, that's not.
I just want to reinforce that because this is going to be public and everyone going to listen to this, and we don't want to be accountable for those kind of things. That's why we are doing this in double.
Let me issue my statement of correction immediately then. Thank you, Marcos, for pointing it out.
Very well.
I did miss.
I learned with you, my friend.
Microsoft does very deeply care about all of the products and services that they offer to their customers. We know this because we are customers.
Exactly.
Oh my God. All right.
Let's move on.
Moving on, Bob. Bob. Let's go.
This is a very quick one. It's related to the last week podcast or last week episode. That is the U.S. government, Virginia, in this case the region, have availability zones in GA. So means that the U.S. government, okay, the Azure for U.S. government, now on the Virginia, right, on the Virginia region, have 3 unique physical locations. So on this region, they will have now the possibility of using availability zones, okay, instead, for example, of availability sets, because now they have 3 different data centers. Again, to just reinforce what's the difference between availability zone and a region is a region you have a combination of at least one data center to up to 3. Okay, what makes those data centers within the same region is the latency. Okay, so if the latency is sub 5 milliseconds, they belong to the same region. If it's above that, then you have another region. Hence, what we in this case talk about last episode of US East 1, US East 2, and now the development of the US East 3. Okay, so those
huge region,
huge area, huge data centers on that side of North America, in this case in US, on the east one, And this is just to explain that part. And I think that is just a good thing that our friends on U.S. government, they will use way more this Virginia region, because now they have availability zones, right? And it's basically where if I'm not mistaken, it's where the central government is, right? It's close to Washington D.C. You have all of that, the Secret Services, NSA, and whatever it is around that area. If I'm not mistaken,
Virginia is pretty big. I think they have FBI headquarters or something like that
Langley,
there, or at
right?
least a big office. And I remember many years ago with my family, we stayed in Virginia Beach. And there was, back in the old days when you were allowed to travel.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I remember all the jets flying over for the military base that was nearby there. I think there's a big naval base there as well in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
So Virginia Beach, I know it's two different cities for sure, but I get it. It's a big thing, and the government regions are really growing. Last week we had quite a few updates.
Massive. It was massive.
Yeah.
On Azure government side of it,
updates.
massive.
Yeah.
Moving to the next one, log replace service on Azure SQL Managed Instance is now in public preview. So a lot of previews this week, and what it means, it's good. They are developing all of this, and now we have log replace service for Azure SQL Managed Instance, right? Pretty cool.
Yeah. So one of the things I did read down a little bit in here, if you click the first link in that article, you actually get a really great detailed Microsoft doc on migrating databases from SQL Server to SQL Managed Instance using log replay service. And that's where this one's kind of going to, right? So like cases when you would use the more control over your database migration project, or if there is a very low tolerance, extremely low tolerance for any downtime on migration cutover. And there's definitely other things that contribute to that, but this is one of those services I think that I'm actually going to be using in my testing tenant, so that I can get a better kind of a hands-on experience with it. So I have not tested this one yet, but I am looking forward to doing that sometime in my spare time this week later on.
Absolutely. What I like about this log replace service is, and you mentioned this correctly on the migration, is we have a service called Azure Database Migration Service, right? That is great, but a lot of times it's not applicable, okay? And you cannot be used in a lot of databases. That's where, in this case, I see the value of this log replace service, okay, coming into. So in case that Azure DMS, the Azure Database, Azure Migration Service, cannot be used, log replace service can be used directly with our favorite tools, PowerShell, CLI, and even through an API to manual build and orchestrate the database migration to a SQL managed instance. And this is where we are starting to see that now there is no excuse of migrating a database to this SQL managed instance, because first and foremost, you should use the database migration service. You have a lot of capabilities that this log replace service doesn't do that, okay? And that is something that I need to cut it out over here to say it. But if that is not applicable, or if it's not possible, you can still use the log replace service to migrate. It's going to be a different process, but you have another process that you can migrate those databases. And I think that is pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility that we're seeing in the migration tools. And I think, just like every other area, they're really trying to keep pace and enable customers that are in the small and medium space, but also in the enterprise space. They're very large. So they want to offer tools that can scale with all of the different usage levels. And it's not always as easy as it just sounds to say it, right? Sometimes these databases can be petabytes in size, and they have to account for how to manage that, and how do you take a large, like say a 2 petabyte database and just do a cutover low downtime? Because typically we would shut it down, you call an outage window, you're shutting down, and then you're migrating files. And if you're uploading 2 petabytes of log files, oh man, you better have like a really good fiber optic connection out of your data center, because that's going to take a while.
There are other services that they can do that. There are other services that you can
access services. There's different ways to do it.
Yeah.
But what I'm loving is how many options we're getting to
Absolutely.
be able to get our data from kind of everywhere else into Azure, and with really low downtime for the migration cutovers. That's huge.
Absolutely.
We've done a couple in our time, migrations to Azure, that is, and one of the things we always have to really work through is how do we bring down that downtime to near zero, like as much as possible. We have to drive that down,
Absolutely.
right? Because customers don't want to call outages anymore.
No.
It used to be you could say Saturday, Sunday was, everybody goes home from the office, nobody's logged into the sales system.
Yeah.
That is just not true anymore. It really is 24/7 now.
Yeah.
So, anyways, long story short, it's a very flexible service, and I can't wait to get hands-on with that one, actually. Yeah. It's going to be really cool.
It's really cool. Moving to the next one, additional IOPS feature for MySQL on the flexible server in preview. So pretty awesome to see that even not only SQL, but MySQL have some increasing of additional IOPS regarding this. And this is pretty awesome to see it, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. You can use MySQL is supported on a lot of different VM SKUs. There's the B, there's the D2, just the D series really, and certainly the memory optimized E series servers, right? So there's a lot of options, and when you take advantage rather of the increased IOPS that are complementary, it can, at the highest level, it takes it up to 20,000 IOPS, wow. Right? So pretty good throughput on the E series on the higher end ones. And there's a lot like we were saying, right? It's Microsoft is making a lot of efforts to keep everything very scalable for large and small. And this is one of those steps, right? So quite often we'll use a MySQL database in smaller companies for a specific purpose in larger companies. And there can be a lot of data throughput sometimes in these systems. So 20,000 IOPS, not too shabby, right? I'd take that on the old home lab.
Absolutely. And talking about performance, what about this new update of the new disk bursting metrics? So talking about performance, it's awesome that now we have that is in GA now available, the new disk bursting metrics. So Azure Monitor allows you to gain insight on your resources that are deploying on running your Azure Monitor. Pretty good to see that now we can have near real-time performance indicators with all of this.
So when we talk about bursting metrics, we're talking about premium SSD tier, right?
Yeah.
And this is in specific. This article specifically is talking about Azure Monitor, and you will actually see in near real time the bursting that happens from your disks if they are premium SSDs. So a couple of kind of requirements to actually see what this one is all about. But it's actually really cool. Azure Monitor, again, really evolving quite rapidly. And I know you and I both have been doing a lot of integration into log analytics and things, collecting all of the data. And it's easy to connect everything. But Azure Monitor does a really good job of pulling data out and making it usable for monitoring and metrics, which includes, in my mind at least, reporting. So I really look forward to being able to actually call out and see a separate report for bursting metrics. That's going to be kind of interesting.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one. Cross-region restore on Azure VMs. It's now GA. And oh my God.
Thank
you.
Goodness.
This
one's been waiting in the wings for 5 years or something? Everybody has wanted this since the beginning of ever having to do a restore.
Yeah. And this is massively because the possibility of this is, it just goes behind of what we're expecting, because now I can create, I can have, for example, a place or not a place, a recovery service vault, okay, on the geo redundancy. So means that I still have ability to just restore that VM on the same region, but if anything happens, I can restore that on a different region, or I can use this to be able to restore anything on a different region that is not connected to anything or whatever it is, to be able to do this. So it makes,
you can now restore into a test environment in a different region. Yeah, and that's massive. So this means that DR testing can now move up another level in Azure. So you can actually, make those DR plans a reality. This is such a big deal. We can't stress that enough.
We couldn't, because we can only do this with ASR, the Azure Site Recovery. So you need to do the Azure backup. Look at this. At before this day, right? We could do, the only way to achieve this, you need to do Azure backup. Okay. So, and that is your BC, the business continuity, in this case, plan. You're doing the backups that you need to do it no matter what, because ASR, it's not a backup tool, first of all. And I just want to say this on over here on the podcast, because it's not a backup tool. It's a disaster recovery tool. So you need to doing this. Even ASR was only able to do another region. Right now, a few months ago, right now you can do on the same region, which is good. Okay, because now we don't have to handle all of the networking and migrating services and doing all of that, right? That you have to do it across regions. But this was the impossible of not able to restore this on a different region. It was locking down the part of, if I want to restore exactly on the same way, I can restore, I can test it, I can do it, and it's on the same environment. I don't need to do like a planet failover or in this case a test failover with Azure Site Recovery, not a planet failover, a test failover, to just be able to do that across different regions. It's massively. I'm so excited like you are when talking about Azure Firewall Premium. It's, for me, this is my highlight of this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a huge deal. I don't deal with a lot of VM infrastructure right now with the clients that I'm working with, so I'm just not jumping up and down. But this is really, really impactful. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's massive. So, like you were saying, there is some differences. So Azure Backup is one tool, ASR is another tool. We use them for different reasons. But it's important that we combine services, and we, the same as security, right? We have to layer our strategies to achieve all of our goals.
Yeah.
So business continuity and disaster recovery, everybody says it as one thing, but it isn't. It's two different things, right?
They are combined. They complement each other, but they are literally two different things.
Exactly. Yes, they go hand in hand, but they walk beside each
Exactly.
other, right? So however we want to say it, nonetheless, Azure Backup restoring to a new region. Oh my God! Thank you so much, Microsoft. This is massive.
Absolutely.
I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't do a bit more of a fanfare for this one. That they just snuck it in with all those Wednesday updates in the middle of the sandwich, really, right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. This is what I love about doing this podcast with you, because we call out these little hidden gems, I guess maybe we can call it, right?
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one, and this is one that is in development, Azure NetApp Files, the volume hard coded change. So they are starting. This is not even on even on public preview. This is in development. They are working. They are working with NetApp to just increase the capacity pool and automatically grow mechanism. So this is in development. They are just announcing this. They are expecting this starting on March 15, in this case 2021. You will see some managed performance, as well some provision capacity regarding Azure NetApp Files.
Exactly, yeah, and that's it's kind of a cool one, because I love when they have these development updates, because we can kind of see what's coming in the future, so we can incorporate this into different architectures, or when we're talking with clients, hey, we saw this on Azure Updates, and we can't do it today, but let's plan for the future. So it allows us to incorporate additional services and better layers of those services in our plans. It's one of the things I love about doing this and going through these on a weekly basis with you. But this one, Azure NetApp Files, the monitoring of the bandwidth, managing the bandwidth, and kind of working between bandwidth and capacity, that's going to be a big change for NetFiles users in Azure, and that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. Azure DAV4 series VMs are available in Azure HDInsight. So again, AMD is getting really into this. You have a new series of VMs that now is available on the HDInsight clusters. Okay, if you are using, this is pretty good, because this particular VM of this particular series, you have up to 96 vCPUs with 384 gigs of RAM. It's almost that I have on my laptop. Okay, almost. Okay, and 2,400 gigabytes of SSD as a temporary storage.
Yeah, so there are some things to think about here.
Absolutely.
And there's a link at the bottom of this for pricing. I'm going to say don't click on it.
Just for your insanity, right?
Yeah, we don't want to give everybody a bit of a heart attack in this case, right?
Exactly.
So when we think about these big systems, they're not cheap. When you buy these and put them in your own data center, these are darned expensive, right?
Yes.
So if you're using a DAV4 series, 96 virtual CPUs, 384 gigs of RAM, almost as powerful as your Magic laptop. So,
yeah.
So if I look in the pricing page, just as an example, if you're using HDInsight with an operating system that you're purchasing as part of your VM, so not bringing your own, in that case, you would pay roughly like $5.75 Canadian to $6.50 Canadian per hour, depending on the way that you deploy and the way that you pay. So it's not a cheap VM. That's per hour. I think I didn't remember if I said that. So when you're running these workloads, clearly they're very processor and memory intensive with HDInsight, and as is typical with larger data sets, right? So really cool that we're starting to see AMD coming back
Yeah.
in Azure again. I'm excited about that because it keeps things competitive, and I really like when we kind of see the processor companies kind of working to lower all the prices, all those things, right? So it's really important because it helps to give us as users of Azure better pricing, and in the process they keep advancing and giving us faster processors. So gotta like that.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next one, and this is a particular one good for us Canadians as well. Azure Purview available in public preview in South Central US and Canada Central. So Azure Purview available in public preview. Yeah, I had to think twice before I say it.
It was interesting. I read a tweet this week from, you'll know him, and you know that I've watched his training for many years as well as yours from back in the old tech days here. But Tim Warner, he tweeted this week and said, Microsoft, what are you thinking with the naming? Preview of Purview. And I think we did make a joke about this.
Yes, we did.
And I want to say a couple months ago, my memory is funny that way, but a while ago.
Yeah. But yeah, it's preview now, so it's great to see it that the Canadian regions are able to achieve this. So it's a great service, and please just use it. And just to see it that even on the Canada Central region we have that available. It's really great. Moving on to the next one. General availability for Azure Red Hat OpenShift now supports OpenShift 4.6. And this is just a horrible mention. It's not because I'm using a lot of the Red Hat OpenShift, but I think it's important because it's a GA of a product that I think we mentioned over here at our podcast, and now supports the OpenShift 4.6. So our friends that are using the OpenShift, they will be really happy to see the improvements regarding the integration.
Absolutely.
And with Red Hat Core OS, right?
Exactly, yeah. And of course, OpenShift is Red Hat's answer to containerization. So again, we're not too heavy on the dev in our podcast, but it is important to mention some of these things because we do deploy a lot of things in containers now, and it allows for a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsive change in infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Right? So if we have a need to grow or shrink or even deploy with a small change in prod, and we need to make parallel systems, we can do this more easily with containerization.
Absolutely.
And after all, Azure is really all about containerization.
It is.
When we think about it, right? So it's a very popular system with large enterprise as well, and big dev departments, custom apps. So yeah, without dwelling on it too much, really cool that it's made it into GA already. I think we only mentioned it a few weeks ago that it was in preview, so very rapid cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving to the next one, Azure Front Door Standard and Premium now in public preview, which is really good because Azure Front Door is the way that you can have the CDN. That is help me here, it's the Content Delivery Network, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you
can have on the Secure Cloud in this case, right? So allows you to just all the cybersecurity teams, they can accelerate that content delivery while they are protecting their apps, APIs, and everything. And now both the standard and premium, it's now on public preview, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is actually a big development. And like you said, Content Delivery Networks, CDNs, allows us to put kind of region-specific delivery servers for images, videos, whatever the content is, doesn't matter. It allows faster geographical delivery. So this is one of those things that combines better user experience, more responsive user experience, and increases security, because Front Door is just that. It's a front door, right? So it's like a layer 7 filtering capability. So there's some really cool stuff with it. So if you're interested in Front Door, we encourage you, go take a look at Azure Microsoft Learn. I think actually has a module on Front Door as well, if I'm remembering that one right.
Yeah, absolutely. But, and the good thing about this is, even on the premium, okay, they already announced that they will have WAF, okay, integration with Azure Front Door standard and premium SKUs. So they are announcing the product, okay, the standard and premium. But they are saying, okay, we are announcing the product, but we are also announcing that it's going to be integrating with WAF, the Web Application Firewall, which is massively
custom WAF rules. Yeah.
So now you can have custom WAF rules into this, right? So it's pretty sweet that they make kind of 2 announcements. So that's why we are talking about those very quickly and almost integrating into both. Because Azure Front Door,
they're very tightly intertwined in this case,
completely,
right?
completely, and that's the part of that.
It's really good. It's like security week this week, isn't it?
It is a security week, and continuing talking about WAF, or in this case Azure Front Door, the next update is a GA. The third one about Azure Front Door is the WAF for Azure Front Door is managed by a ruleset refresh, and this is GA. So they are announcing, in this case, the standard and the premium SKU. But Azure Front Door that you have already now, they have a new rule set that is 1.1, okay? That adds new rules to a broader coverage and modification of existing rules to reduce false positives. So besides they are already saying that they're going to a new SKUs with the new functionalities, they already update the new rules that they already have deployed. Pretty good week for Azure Front Door.
So we don't usually run through any how-tos on here, but just bear with me. Can you click the link that says tutorial?
Absolutely.
Because I want to share with our viewers, at least, and if you're listening, jump to Azure Track's YouTube channel to check out the video, because this one might be worth it for you. Now, from that link, it takes you right to the bottom for the default rule set, which is what we're talking about in this update. We can refresh this rule set a little bit dynamically, right? But if you actually scroll up from that, you can see how easy it is to actually create a custom rule for a web application firewall. So this isn't rocket science, and I wanted to just share it, because I'm not a security expert by any means, but as you know, we have to work a lot with security, and I think there's some value in getting people excited about that too, from an infrastructure standpoint, that we're kind of talking about here on Security Week Special with Azure Weekly News.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very good point that you mentioned. Moving to the last one, email one-time passcode authentication on by default starting on October 21. This is pretty cool for Active Directory. This is something that we were kind of looking for, to become more a default method, and inviting all the accounts on the business to business, okay, collaboration scenarios to have this authentication. It's not related to Azure, but it's something that we were so excited to see it, and we were discussing this before that we want to put this over here because it's massively.
And this one's a big deal. Yeah, because as you know, I get very passionate about Active Directory and Azure Active Directory, mostly because that's what I spend a lot of time actually hands-on doing with my clients. And it is a really critical component in our hybrid world that we live in with a lot of on-prem and distributed cloud resources. So when I want to say in 365 about last summer, so summer of 2020, I think it was, became available, and I probably have the season even wrong, but that's okay. I'm trying to generalize. In Microsoft 365, Microsoft Office 365, we saw guest accounts that we could flip the toggle like on this one and say, require a one-time passcode validation through email for guest invitations. And this is the equivalent for the Azure B2B services, right? This is huge. And I think the M365 one might even still be tagged as in preview. I think it's like one of those beta things that just like sits in beta forever and everybody.
It's like almost like I think it's not like years. I remember when I opened, for example, my account on Gmail, on the like 15 or 20 years ago, whatever was it. It was for like more than a decade on beta in this case. And it was like, oh my God, it took like 10 years or more than that just developing Gmail. But yeah, it's those kind of things that they are constantly moving, constantly testing. So they just put, because of those things that you learn regarding change management, right? You cannot deploy until you have the signature.
Just call it beta, and then we avoid all those problems.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, that was a hard lesson. Let me tell you that young lady was not a happy person.
No, it was not.
Man, I remember that.
But that's okay.
Mr. Lowes. We need to talk.
Exactly. And when they come with that, Mr. Lowes, we need to talk, it's like, oh man, what I did this time.
It makes me think of, and Mom, if you're watching, I don't think my mom watches because this would be so boring for her. but oh yes, if you get all three names called, let me tell you, you might as well just sit down now because it's going to take a minute.
A minute? That's going to be fast.
I'm trying to be respectful.
Oh, okay. Oh, I understand. It's a minute on mom's time.
It's a minute of mom time. It's like, 2 minutes of IT time, right? Do you remember? I want to just call out our IT time here briefly. And I know I always run these things long, but you know what? It's a topical conversation because when we started our idea for let's record when we're talking about some Azure news because this is really just, you and I recording what we talk about anyways. But we said, you know what, let's target like 15, maybe 30 minutes if we have more updates and we want to go in depth. I don't think we've had one under 50 minutes. You take care of the editing, so I don't know the answer to that.
I don't remember on top of my head, but yeah. But this one is a long one, so we have to continuing.
We did have lots.
Yeah,
of
we
updates
did have
again.
lots of updates.
Yeah, and so I will move this forwards from my own diversion of conversation here and say thank you so much for listening to the bitter end. And we really do appreciate everybody that tunes in weekly or bi-weekly, whatever your cadence is, watching our video, giving us a listen on things like SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Spotify.
Spotify. Marcos does an amazing job of producing this podcast for the both of us together. And I just want to say thank you, Marcos, for doing all of the hard work behind the scenes. It's not easy to pull it off. We have mic issues. We have audio problems, video problems, recording hiccups. And that doesn't even account for my family and my dogs barking. Exactly. So,
and I have two dogs over here as well that they are requiring my attention right now. So like you said, thank you so much. If you want to help us out, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to put the bell or the notifications so you can see it when we release the podcast. We will have some in these, let's say, upcoming episodes. We will try to do something new, try to do a live show. So if you want to participate let us know in advance. We are not doing like next week. We will do it in the next weeks, in a few weeks ahead. But try to do that. Try to enter in contact with us, and we will participate on this podcast as well. So once again, thank you. I hope I can see you next week, and have a great week, my friends. And don't forget, Azure is awesome.